Welcome to the Compliance and Improvement Monitoring for Significant Disproportionality, or SIM for SIGDIS, pre-work recording for the Step 3 workshop. We will be focusing on the SIM for SIGDIS Plan for Improvement. This is the action plan that details what you will be implementing for the duration of your SIM for SIGDIS cycle. This recording is being presented by the State Performance Plan Technical Assistance Project, or SPP-TAP, and is paid for by the California Department of Education, CDE, through a contract with Napa County Office of Education. My name is Susan Stewart, and I am the project manager for SPP-TAP. Our presenters today are Trena Spurlock and Margaret Farruggio. Both Trena and Margaret are current SPP-TAP TA facilitators, and they have extensive local and district-wide experience as special education administrators in California. Trena and Margaret will walk you through a 2024 SIM for SIGDIS Plan for Improvement template, and they will use a sample plan to highlight some key elements to pay attention to as you prepare your plan for submission to CDE for approval. I'll now turn the mic over to Trena.
Thank you, Susan. During our time together, we will discuss how you will fit the next piece into your puzzle of addressing significant disproportionality. Step 3 is about developing your plan for improvement. Step 3 builds upon both steps 1 and step 2. So all of the work that you did during steps 1 and step 2 are now going to be put into a comprehensive place in step 3. What you've done in those steps will inform the plan for improvement that you will develop specifically and individually for your LEA. Several times we will reference information that you submitted to the CDE in step 2. When you start on your plan for improvement, you will have to have the step 2 content at hand to copy and paste into portions of your step 3 template. The step 3 template is a Word document and is composed of 4 sections. Section 1 is your SIM team members, your overall goal / problem, practice, and prioritize root causes. Section 2 is your high-level strategies and supporting activities, expected measurable outcomes, standards of success, and methods of measurement. Section 3 are your budget forms, and Section 4 is your signature page. We will walk through the first 2 sections in this recording using a sample plan for improvement. We will walk through the budget forms and the signature page using the same sample plan during the Step 3 workshop. This sample was pulled from a plan approved by the CDE, and it is considered a good plan. There are 2 fields in StepWell that you will complete Step 3. However, there is no StepWell submission for plan improvement. You will submit your document through email to sigdis@cde.ca.gov and copy your FMTA consultant to ensure your plan gets into the right hands. Don't worry, the email address and instructions for sending your plan for improvement to CDE are on the template. You can access both the template and the sample on the Step 3 materials page on the SPP-TAP website. Let's get started. The first place where information is put into the form is for the contact information for the LEA and the LEA SELPA. Next, the first table that you will complete in the list for your SIM team members is from Step 1. So that's the cut and paste that we talked about. These members may have changed, so be sure to have the correct individuals, their roles, their emails, and responsibility for oversight of the plan listed. You will see that I've highlighted the word implementation because at this point, you determine who will be responsible for overseeing the implementation of the plan. If you do not have general education involved yet, you will need to get Gen Ed staff to your SIM team to ensure that there is leadership from Gen Ed to oversee the work. The next box you will fill in is the overall goal or problem of practice. All the indicators for which your LEA is significantly disproportionate will be added here. You will also find this information in Activity 18 in Step 2. It is crucial that this information is correct because it provides the focal point for all the work in your plan. We will get even more specific about the students you will focus on to provide the SIM for SIGDIS services when we discuss the target population. Your FMTA consultant will need this information in order to see how you have drawn the lines between your indicators to your data, to your root causes, and into the measurable outcomes and activities. That's what we call connecting the dots. Next, you will cut and paste from step 2 documents, the root causes you identified, and the related data summary statements. These can be found in activities 19 through 22 on step 2. The sample lists 2 root causes, but we're only showing 1 root cause for this slide. The reason for repeating this information here is so that all your team can reference back to the root causes your LEA is addressing whenever there is a need for context or reinforcing both during the development of the plan and while you're implementing the plan. It would be helpful for anyone who is new to the team to reference the root causes of the work. Also, it helps the functional consultants as they are reviewing your plan for approval. Margaret's going to walk us through the next portion of the plan. Margaret?
Thanks, Trena. Now, in section 2, we're going to get down to some new content. This section has several components. The template has room for 2 high leverage strategies. Under each high leverage strategy, you'll enter the related measurable outcomes, the root causes, the target population, and the activities. We will walk through each of these components. For this example, high leverage strategy number 1. A high leverage strategy is an overarching effort that the measurable outcomes fall under, and it's also drawn from the theory of action. This LEA's first and only a high leverage strategy is implementing an expanded and culturally responsive multi-tiered system of support. Now let's look at how the LEA plans to implement that strategy. Under this high leverage strategy, this example has 4 measurable outcomes. Note that each measurable outcome is time-bound. It indicates a specific date by which the outcome will be completed. It's specific. It includes clear information describing the intent of the activity. It's measurable. It identifies specific measurements by which the LEA can determine if the outcome has been achieved. It's attainable, meaning all of the measurable outcomes are doable within the time frame and with the resources available to the LEA. It's relevant. All of the measurable outcomes relate to the root causes that the LEA identified and prioritized. And finally, equitable. Each measurable outcome is intended to address issues of equity. These descriptors, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, are also known as the components of SMART goals. With SIG-DIS, we add equitable to ensure that the activity intentionally focuses on the disparities identified in the LEA. These then become SPART-E measurable outcomes. I want to point out that 3 of the 4 measurable outcomes indicate that the LEA's ultimate goal is to decrease the risk ratios for African American students eligible under OHI and ED. The dates are also aligned within progress report number 7. The 4th outcome is measured in 2 ways: by comparing equity results and by decreasing discipline referrals. As a reminder, remember to establish and collect baseline data. This outcome is aligned with the final progress report number 8. These are appropriate measures because the results will reveal whether the activities really make a difference for students, and the change in risk ratio data reinforces that. Please know that activities should be monitored and measured throughout the plan in the event implementation adjustments are needed to meet the measurable outcomes. When we get down to the activities, you'll see even more granular measures that reflect more immediate student outcomes, and we will illustrate that in just a minute. So we're still in section 2, but we're going to add the root causes. This LEA had only 2 root causes, and both of them are related to the first high leverage strategy. So both of them are listed under the applicable root causes for that high leverage strategy. Now we will discuss the target population, an area where LEAs often struggle. It's critically important to get the target population right. All of the activities and measurements identified are used to monitor progress on a very specific set of students. The group of students were selected because of their risk for disproportionate identification. This is the group of students for whom the impact is measured. Let's use the metaphor of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. The builders did not properly identify the target location for the building. Therefore, they built the tower on soft ground. As a result, the tower leans and cannot be used for its intended purpose, the ringing of the bells. So, if your target population is off, the measurable outcomes will not be realized. That said, copy and paste your target population from Step 2, Activity 24. This is a good time to revisit your target population to ensure that it's the right one before making decisions about your activities. Will these activities meet the measurable outcomes? This is especially important if there are new members on the team who need to understand exactly which students will be receiving CSACE services as outlined in your plan for improvement. It's important to review the target population so that all team members understand the selection criteria and who the students are. The pre-work for this session included the target population recording and the target population flowchart. More information will be shared during the Step 3 workshop. The next table, let's say, maps your implementation points for each activity that is identified to meet the measurable outcomes of the high leverage strategy number 1. For each activity, there are 6 columns that need to be completed. 1, the activity description. 2, who is going to implement and monitor the activities. 3, specific dates for the completion of the activities, as well as possible tasks within the activity. 4, specific ways to demonstrate progress on the measurable outcome or the completion of the activity. Number 5, then identify the resources needed, budget, cross-divisional colleagues, etc. And 6, the final column is where you identify the funding source for all needed resources. Our sample has 13 activities for the 4 measurable outcomes. We selected 5 of them to illustrate key points to consider when developing your activities. We're looking at the first activity under high leverage strategy number 1. This is activity 1.1. In this activity, the LEA will hire an MTSS coach for the duration of the 2024 CIM for SIGDIS plan. The person in charge is Shelley Jepson, the Director of Student Support Services. Note that there are 2 timeline-based benchmarks. The first one, create the MTSS coach job description, and the second is hire that MTSS coach. In the data column, indicate how this activity will be measured, or in this case, accomplished. Identify the documents related to the hiring process. For example, the job description, evidence of the position being posted, a contract for the MTSS coach. These documents will later be linked into your progress reports as evidence of implementation. In this example, the main resource for this activity is coordination with the Human Resources Department to help with the recruitment and hiring. Notice that blended funding will be used for this activity because CSACE funds cannot be used for Tier 1 activities. The reason that CSACE funds can be used, though, for a portion of the MTSS coach's salary is because the LEA calculated how many students will be in the target population and calculated how much time the coach will be providing supports to just that group of students. That portion of time will be paid with CSACE funds. The rest will be paid with LCAP funds. More information on allowable expenditures will be explained during the virtual Step 3 workshop. And now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Trena.
Thank you, Margaret. In activity 1.2, I want to highlight one way in which the policies, practices, and procedures, or PPP review, that the LEA conducted actually back in Step 1, informed the development of the plan for improvement. In that review, they discovered that there was no language in the policy manual about the Student Study Team, or SST. The LEA will add an SST policy as part of their plan for improvement and will incorporate the SST procedures to the development of the expanded multi-tiered systems of support. In addition, the LEA has incorporated a fidelity measure to ensure that the policy and procedures lead to consistent practices among staff. You will see that blended funding will also be used for this activity because CSACE funds cannot be used for Tier 1 activities. So only the time spent on activities for the target population will be charged to the CSACE budget, and the remainder would be paid from LCAP funds. In activity 1.8, the LEA is examining and addressing assessment processes for ED and OHI by working with their school psychologists, and the CSACE funds cannot be used for special education activities such as assessment for special education identification. This is already funded with special education dollars, so it would be considered supplanting if it were now paid with CSACE funds. However, this is a related and very important activity and should be included in the plan. This LEA included it because this activity will be paid by special education funds, but will have an effect on the targeted population. Activities 1.11 and 1.12 are related to the equity mocks mentioned in the measurable outcome 4. Activity 1.11 collects formative data that will guide the LEA in their equity work, particularly at the student level for their target population. The tools for collecting that data are equity walk rubrics. Activity 1.12 is where the data collected on the equity walks is analyzed to inform what should take place to meet the needs of the target population. The measurement for activity 1.12 is comparative data analysis between fall and spring to see if there has been a change in the target population's experience of the school's environment. This illustrates the importance of gathering baseline data so that a comparison can be made in both cases. In both of these activities, the CSACE funds can be used because they are general education activities that focus on the target population. Other students may also reap benefits, but the work is specifically designed for the target population. The LEA may find that the equity walks are a powerful source of information, and it may want to expand the use of the equity walks to the rest of the LEA. If they choose to do that, they would need to find additional funding sources for the expanded equity walks and analysis. Margaret?
Thanks, Trena. Now we're in section 3. This section contains 2 budget forms. The 2024 CSACE budget allocation form, which guides you to determine the amount of funds you will have for your CSACE activities, and the 2024 CSACE budget allowable costs form that includes the budget for allowable CSACE activities in the plan for improvement. We'll go over the budget forms in detail during Step 3 workshop. The 4th section is the signature page. It has 2 parts. Provide the names and contact information for staff who will complete the SPP-TAP feedback survey after the 2024 CIM for SIGDIS plan for improvement period ends. And secure the signatures of those who have the authority to make the funds available and approve the work. We'll give you a bit more information about the signature page at the Step 3 workshop. Additional information on connecting the dots between all the steps for the CIM for SIGDIS plan for improvement, tips for developing your plan for improvement, key information regarding allowable expenditures, and more will be shared during the Step 3 workshop. You can register on the SPP-TAP website on the Significant Disproportionality page. And now I turn it back to Susan.
Thank you, Trena and Margaret. Your experience with significant disproportionality as district administrators as well as TA facilitators really contextualizes this information, and we really appreciate your time and insights. Also, a big thanks to you who are watching this recording. We appreciate the time that you took out of your day to learn about that process for developing your plan for improvement, address significant disproportionality. We look forward to our time with you at the Step 3 workshop. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact Connie Silva, the project director for SPP-TAP, me, or the California Department of Education. Thank you.